And good morning. Welcome to your Friday, March the 11th, 2022. Exactly. My name is Jay Cleveland Payne. These are things you might not have heard for this day, which are some news stories from the past day, about the past 28, 30 hours or so. Some of the top news stories vetted by you that you say are pretty conversational, pretty good to listen to, and pretty good to talk about. And so that's what we're going to provide for you. So these are some things you might not have heard based on what other people thought were pretty cool, if that made any sense. You find out more about how all this thing works by going to our main website, thisisconversationproject.com, and see how the magic comes together, or the microns, if you will, however you want to describe that. We're going to have 5 stories for you that are, like I said, vetted by you as stories that sort of make sense, sort of are interesting, and may not be the top headline news. Now, we do have Russia, as Russia is all we got going on. So there's plenty of Russia things going on, but plenty of things popping in, including some breaking news that changed on you guys, where you guys voted one thing in and then things just flat out changed. So we had to go with the real update. So let's go with the big news so far, starting off with the story here at the lead at number 1. MLB players strike labor deal that will enable full 2022 baseball season. Sports.yahoo.com is where we got this one. And now here's where the kicker was. What you guys actually voted up as a very high range story to talk about was the fact that baseball was about to cancel more games because they seem like being in the players and the league and the owners, it seemed like they couldn't get anywhere close to a deal. Apparently, a deal is all about done. There's a couple things need to be actually signed. These things take a little bit of time, though, due diligence, if you will. But it basically made yesterday the day they decided to play baseball, play all total 163 games, which means a whole lot of doubleheaders to be happening, with a spring training essentially opening up today, be going back to work today, and some pre season games happening as early as next week. Now we will see how this all plays out. We'll see what the actual numbers come out to be. It'll take a little while before both sides release what they really feel about the deal. But this means there's a deal. This means there's no baseball stoppage. This means, more importantly, not for the millionaires and billionaires who play and own teams, but for all the people and all the folks around the area, people who run the stadiums, people who do parking stuff, people who just live off baseball will have the season to go to. Now, whether there'll be some hard feelings on either side, that's players and owners, or hard feelings from the fans, because there's usually something from the fans, is there. The big news is we're going to have a full season. If you're a fan of that, if you like extra baseball, you can have a whole lot of extra baseball. If baseball is sort of the dead period in sports for you, then you still got to go through the full dead period of sports. Although there are all these minor league football leagues coming out that may keep your interest in sports as well. Story number 2 this morning: Jussie Smollett sentenced to 150 days in jail, ordered to pay back Chicago $120,000. WGN.TV.com is a source. This one, pretty good source to get this from, because it's in Chicago. But this is what it all boils down to. We basically waited till like late evening for them to do this. They spent all day with people speaking on the behalf and speaking behind the behalf, and people speaking against Jussie Smollett, because today was a day of sentencing. So today was a day for any last minute pleas for leniency or pushes to push more harder on Jussie Smollett. What did he do? He famously, the actor staged a hate crime where he had 2 black dudes pretend to be white dudes and say they beat him up and poured bleach on him for being a black gay guy in Chicago. The whole thing was fake. The whole thing was weird. And the thing is, Chicago put a whole lot of money and effort into Jussie Smollett into this. So the $120K basically goes back to police work and overtime and whatever it costs the city to do the investigation. 150 days is not a lot of time. He does have about 3 years of probation, something like that, if that makes any sense. It's one of those things where, is it a harmless crime? Not really, but there are worse people out there who need to be locked up than Jussie Smollett for worse things. Although this thing, not exactly good. Moving on to story number 3 this morning. Congress weighs permanent daylight savings time in a debate as regular as clockwork. That's kind of, yeah. But WashingtonPost.com gave us that headline. And this weekend is daylight savings time, where we will shift our clocks. We will actually spring forward Because the weird thing, we save the daylight in the fall, where we fall backwards, and this is, of course, based on a lot of old things we do that we still do now. Our schooling system, based on the fact that agricultures needed kids to work in the fields all summer, so they got a chance at school during the time when there wasn't really much farming work to do. Our daylight savings time, based on that as well, saving the daylight for people, time wise, clockwise on your clock. You didn't even save daylight, but it basically made the time stay consistent as the sun moved in different places. Now it doesn't really matter. Now it's sort of a bastion of just old time thinking. And while people are complainers of it, the real reason why it's not useful is because it's not exactly useful. We're not living on that sort of agriculture type of time, and people who do can shift with the sunlight. They are smart enough to realize, oh, sun's coming up later, let's just deal with it. It's a pain in the butt. There's a lot of other things going on, schedules and computers and clocks and things like that. So we're going to see how this thing goes. Spoiler alert, it's not going anywhere. It never goes anywhere. No one's going to change this anytime soon. And we got Russia to deal with right now. So this one probably isn't going to get taken seriously. So don't get your hopes up about daylight savings time quite yet. It's something that fairly soon will turn into something that may be something that we really are paying attention to. But in the meantime, in the right now time, it's not going to happen. So don't get your hopes up, because you are changing your clocks this weekend. Just deal with it. The next story we have is this one right here. TSA to extend mask mandates for planes, public transportation until April 18th. NBCnews.com on that one. And if you think you got upset about the fact that we're not changing daylight saving time, think about this one. Most mask mandates have been lifted by states. So basically all 50 states, except for Hawaii, because of tourism and things like that, and with keeping themselves safe, have a pretty strong mask mandate in public places. The rest of the 49, and I believe Puerto Rico, most of the territories, essentially have no real mandate for a statewide issue. And with the numbers of cases in coronavirus going down, and the severeness of the cases being lessened as well, many other places are loosening up a lot less, or thinking about it in some cases. Some medical facilities obviously are still masking up and washing up pretty well, but your public places are filled with more people who are wandering around maskless, and no one's complaining about it as much because the mandates are essentially gone. With your personal preference, that's what goes on. TSA is like, nope. Not quite yet. While the CDC and folks say that it's okay to be indoors in places, the TSA is saying for public transit, such as planes and buses and things like that, we're masking until at least April 18th. We're going to keep this thing going for just a bit. Now, there's no real science, no real other than policy to do this, to keep it going. And so they're going to keep it going. So you are still taking your shoes off. You are still getting patted down. And yes, you're still wearing your mask at the airport. So the best thing you can do is just sort of deal with it, because that's what's going to happen at least until April 18th. They will reevaluate, and they will probably drop it at that point if there's no serious major spring type coronavirus outbreaks. We'll see how spring break does with that one. But TSA is holding fast to the mask mandate, whether it makes sense or not. Quick break from the news, the last story that you vetted, and I'm going to do a little extra time, the very last story in that one. And we want to talk to you about Fundrise. If you stop by, this is the conversationproject.com/Fundrise, you can do what I have done and be a real estate investor. Now, there's all these different apps and all these different websites, and I work it with a couple of them as well for my investments, for my stocks, for my crypto, for things like that. But this is an interesting and unique way to get into investing, and this is to get into real estate. Now, you don't have to have millions and billions of dollars. You can start it off with really $25, and you can be a real estate investor. You will be put into a portfolio, and the portfolio will show you where your properties are. They are actively trading or actively buying pieces and moving things out to fund places such as rental homes, such as brand new constructions, also commercial buildings. So you can see exactly what you are funding and where it is and how it's doing. They have nice, very easy to understand data points and portfolios so you to get into. And check this out. If you join right now, if you click the link at thisistheconversationproject.com/Fundrise, you get 90 days of your advisory fees for free. So all the money that goes into pay the people who do good work on this for 90 days, nothing. So you get pure profit for the first 90 days of your work. And you will be surprised how easy it is to find your investments, put your money into it, and watch them grow. Right now, real estate is blowing up. So if you're worried about some of the other investments, this is a nice, easy, and fairly inexpensive way to get in on the ground floor, or throw caution to the wind and put plenty of money into real estate. Get into real estate by going through Fundrise. Go to thisisaconversationproject.com/Fundrise. This is affiliate link, so we get a little bit back for this one, but it costs you nothing extra. It's just a finder's fee. So check it out if you want to be in a big time real estate investor, or just say you have a little money in the real estate. You can brag about that. That's something they might have heard. Check out thisisaconversationproject.com/Fundrise. So we're going to spend a little time with this story here. And this is a story that we teased yesterday, and you guys jumped on it. And so it made it into the feed, made it into the range. So we got into it. And I really want to talk about this because this story also got more interesting as the day went by. The write-up was pretty much simple on its own. And the incident, which was filmed and released on body cam pretty easily and early. So that was done on its own. But the nuance got a little weird. And some of y'all's got a little ignorant in this conversation. Now, let's start with what happened. Ryan Coogler, the director and producer of Black Panther, went to a headline: Black Panther director mistaken for robber, handcuffed at Atlanta bank, from WSBTV.com. Ryan Coogler went to a bank and went to a teller. He went to the teller, wrote something on a note, handed it to the teller. Teller looked at the guy handing a note, and he asked, "What can I do for you, sir?" And the guy was like, "Yeah, check out my notes." From there, the teller got a little spooked because the guy's saying, "Take my note." That's usually a bank robber saying, "Here's my note. Don't say anything." She called police. Police came and arrested him. They took him outside. They talked for a few minutes. It was all a misunderstanding. Now, maybe you can't pick director Ryan Coogler out of a lineup, or off of the street, or off of his mugshot, off of his snapshots. Guess what? I'm sure you can't. And the teller in this case had no idea that this guy wearing a mask, because there's mask mandates, is Ryan Coogler of Black Panther, handing him a note saying, "I need to withdraw $12,000. I just want to keep this quiet." Because that's what bank robbers do. They give you a note and say, "Give me some money. I want to keep this quiet." And since this teller he never met before, did not know what was going on, freaked out, as one may do. Oh, by the way, the teller was black. So there's a weird sort of dichotomy of, first it was, I bet it was a white person, and it wasn't. And then it was, oh, check him out, the black people not being good to black people. Nobody had any idea from watching the footage of the cameras of what was going on. No one had no idea from the get-go who this guy was on the camera. I could not pick Ryan Coogler out if you paid me money or put a gun to my head. And I hate to put that analogy, but it's just like that. I couldn't pick him out of a thing, because he's not Michael B. Jordan. He is Ryan Coogler. There you go. So this thing got really, 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 really big, really, really, really fast. But the good news is it was basically Bank of America said an apology. Ryan Coogler said it's all misunderstanding, and it's just what he does. He had a medical professional that on his staff that wants to be paid in cash, likes to be paid in cash, and he has that much cash. But what Coogler usually does to not bring up any sort of suspicion and kind of keep things on a download is hand the person a note, have them read that, and kind of work it from there. So it's not like everybody's all up in a tizzy on hey, what's going on, talking real loud about, hey, I need to withdraw $12,000. However, in this case, what would normally happen is someone hands someone a note and kind of say, "Hush, hush, read my note," would get suspicious, because I don't know you're Ryan Coogler. Apologies to Ryan Coogler for being a great director that I don't know who he is. But remember, like I said, he's not Michael B. Jordan. He's not James Earl Jones. He is not the famous actors that he directs. I don't think he actually directed James Earl Jones. I don't know why he popped in my head. But he mistaken identity, if you will. This is not a Karen situation. This is a mistaken, just sort of misunderstanding. Bank of America put out a statement. Ryan Coogler put out a statement. Everybody's cool with it. Now, hopefully, Ryan Coogler may actually go to the similar teller, go to the similar bank manager, and talk to the same guy, because confusion in this case brought out confusion. So let's go to a teaser story right now. And this is not a Ryan Coogler thing, but this is also a Marvel beloved, if you will. And the teaser story is a story that's going to be posted in our feeds in a little bit. We'll explain what that means in just a bit. But you'll get a chance to vote up, vote in the conversation on this story if you like it. Samuel Jackson calls BS after Jonah Hill is named actor with most obscene profanity. Now, this, we're not going to go deep into this. We'll go deeper into this if you decide to talk about this on Monday. But Samuel Jackson was on with Jimmy Kimmel, yeah, I believe it was Jimmy Kimmel on Wednesday. And there was a poll, just sort of a thing that came out. They'll call the actor with the most profanity in a movie. And number one on that list, and they went by just kind of general movies, I guess. Number one on that list was Jonah Hill. Samuel Jackson came out on that list number 3. Samuel Jackson, known for the MFs all the times, called BS on it, said there's probably something wrong with this. There really needs to be a recount. We will see if we chat this thing up on Monday, because you have to bring this one up. This one will be posted in about an hour or so. So if this is one that you are wanting to engage in, go ahead and engage in it. Now, what does all that really mean by going ahead and engaging in it? So here is the kind of the rundown of how we work things with things that might have heard and the Conversation Project. Stop by our website. This is theconversationproject.com to find out more details about what the Conversation Project is and what we're doing. With our taglines are, we try to have the best conversations with the best conversationalists, and that's talking news stories, not necessarily the number one top story, but more news story, more detailed stuff. So you're a more involved, more learned person. Even though the big story is a big story, it's good to know for some of the smaller stories as well. We also call ourselves your tertiary source of news, because we are not CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, Newsmax, OAN. We are not out there, obviously, news gathering. I'm preparing for, I'm just getting ready for work, essentially. This is a chance to just kind of chat things up and see what stories are out there, and some things that, like I said, you might not have heard, because there's a lot of Russia going on right now. Also, stop by our Facebook feed and our Twitter feed, our Facebook page, Twitter page, I would call that. But follow us on Facebook and Twitter. This is the Conversation Project on Facebook, and th_conversation on Twitter. When you follow us there and check out your other stuff, feed stuff, and see what's going on, see what we have going on, and the stories that pop up. If you like them, if you hate them, if you want to get more into them, read them, engage with them, share them, do what you do to press whatever button you like to press. The more engagement the story gets, the higher it goes up in the score. Tuesday through Friday, we take the top 15 stories on that top score, and we pick 5 of those stories to present you here. On Monday, we're going from Friday morning all the way to Monday morning. That's 3-ish days, 3 in a chunk. So we're going to go through the top 30 stories over the weekend and present to you 7 of those stories that you might have heard, or the more conversational ones, if you will. That's how these things work. We also bring up things that you might not have heard, such as celebrity birthdays. Yay, celebrity birthdays. Johnny Knoxville, Terrence Howard, and Thora Birch all celebrating birthdays on this March 11th. Also, March 11th today, that is celebrated as National Johnny Appleseed Day. Remember Johnny Appleseed and all the stories about him and how he's responsible for agriculture across the United States? Well, he kind of is, even though it's a bit of a tall tale, a lot of tall tale. But Johnny Appleseed Day celebrates today, so take a bite of that apple just for him. Turn up some apple cider if you want to. Also, one last thing you might not have heard for today. Ocean water heals wounds, aches, and skin disease, apparently. This is coming from the internet, so there you go. But this is coming from the internet, and it allows you to understand that the minerals and the salts and the makeup of ocean water apparently has healing properties. It's not just crystals. It's all the minerals and things in there that does do things for aches and pains, which is why a soak in the ocean does make people feel good. And it then actually work on diseases of the skin, soaking in all those minerals. It can help. Now, make sure you go to a doctor for serious problems. But if you're just looking for some sort of minor relief, an ocean swim can actually do some good, some justice. This has been Things You Might Have Heard for Friday, March the 11th, 2022. Whether you're watching this thing live or in the future, let us know. Put your name in the chat and where you're watching this from and what's going on, and we will shout you out when we can. Thank you so much for all the support. On Monday, we'll open this up for a wider audience, so you'll get a chance to hang out with some of the folks from my J. Cleveland Payne pages. But in the meantime, thank you for being a part of the conversation. Thank you for being a part of the Conversation Project and keeping this project going forward. It is always a pleasure to do this thing. I mean, there's otherwise I'm just rambling incoherently, and I could say this stuff in my head. Good ups to my brother Josh out there, who is rolling the streets of taking care of folks out there, being a cop, taking care of folks, and getting this news done. Thank you so much, and keep safe, my brother. Make sure you are taking care of yourself. In the meantime, and in between time, thank you so much for being informed, being in there, knowing what's going on. We will chat this thing up. 7 stories preparing for you on Monday.